Hello and welcome to Black Helicopter Radio. My name is Ed Walker, and I'll be with you for the next hour and a half. So today's episode is going to be on alien abduction. I have done one other show on this, but there's just so much to this topic. You can't really do justice to simply doing one episode on this. I mean, this is a huge, huge topic, and as you'll see, I think it is important and is not something that should just be simply brushed off. Um, this is something I've been studying for many years, so I've really evolved what I believe it actually is. One thing I'll tell you though is I assure you it is real. In what sense it's real, we'll go into that. I mean, is it physically, actually being sucked up into a, spaceship and taken somewhere and done with experiments, or is it maybe done, in a totally different plane of reality? Um, these are things that we will discuss. I just want to make sure in the chat room, can you all hear me? If you guys could just respond to that, just because we have had technical difficulties before, so I don't want to be talking to a dead air. Um, as far as that goes, let me just get started talking about abduction. Um, the There's a organization called the Center for UFO Studies, and they have a very good description of abduction. And this is a criteria that they describe abduction. A person must be taken against his or her will from terrestrial surroundings by non-human beings. And then it goes on, the beings must take the person to an enclosed place, not terrestrial in appearance, assumed or known to be an alien spacecraft by the witness. In this place, the person must either be subjected to an examination, engage in communication, verbal or telepathic, or both. These experiences may be remembered consciously or through methods of focused concentration such as hypnosis. So that is an alien abduction. So that's the definition. Before I really delve into this, I want to make sure you guys, I forgot to do this early in the broadcast last time, and I really regretted it. I want to make sure I put this call out number for you all in case anyone's interested in joining in. The area code is 347. The phone number is 327-9278. Again, area code 347-327-9278. Specifically, would love to hear if any of you have had experiences that are either full-blown abductions or things that are very similar. Um, Sometimes it's not the full experience. People have they have much more minor experiences as opposed to the all-out um, full-blown abduction. Things. Obviously, sighting UFOs is a constant one. People that's constantly associated with the abduction phenomenon. So with that being said, I one author who I think does a great job really digging deep into what alien abduction is, and has he just a very simple but yet profound way of describing it is Professor John Mack. I read his book, and that was what really convinced me that this is not just some make-believe or dreams. A lot of times people pass it off as that, or just sleep paralysis. Although I do think sleep paralysis is connected, but a lot of the mainstream scientists say it's nothing more than sleep paralysis, and they believe sleep paralysis is nothing more than just being awake dreaming, basically. But anyway, so he did just a great job of just getting down and dirty into the details of what exactly it is, and really, really analyzing it. He came to a conclusion later in his career and of studying this is that it was much more of a spiritual experience for these people. It was not as much of a sci-fi, crazy green men from Mars type experience. He ended up believing that this was actually a very profound, shamanic type experience. That all these ancient religions and the American Indians and all these people have discussed. And I actually tend to lean towards that. I'm not so sure if I'm still debating if there are, if there is really such thing as a positive abduction experience, because, even if it does seem positive to the abductee, I think a lot of times these beings are very deceitful, so it's very hard to say. But so yeah, I mentioned earlier, is it real? And I'll tell you, there is no doubt in my mind after studying this that something is going on with these people, and it's just trying to determine exactly what is going on. What I mean by that is, I don't think they're just making it up. I don't think it's just a dream. I do think their claims are very serious, and a lot of times these people, come out with, with a lot of fear. They know it's going to hurt their reputation. A lot of them don't make it, they're not making a lot of money. I'm sure some have profited off their books and such, but a lot of them remain anonymous, so they're not making money. They use fake names. So I mean, a lot of these people literally have much more to lose by coming out than gain by coming out. I mean, you'll look absolutely insane to the average, TV watching American hot dog eating zombie if you claim to have had some sort of extraterrestrial abduction type experience. And actually, yeah, when I say abduction, actually, John Mack preferred to use the term just experience and then refer to them as experiencers because abduction, has its limitations. Like I mentioned earlier in that criteria, it kind of has to fit in that. It was much more broad with him. So why should you care about abduction? I guess I should say. I've talked a lot about the whole New World Order conspiracy, and a lot of you that are listening might say, Ed, you really should focus on that. That's this abduction stuff is just kooky or well, I'll tell you why I really do think it is important to study this because for one, this is evidence that this thing we call reality goes a lot deeper than just our immediate five senses, than, what the mainstream, shoves down our throat in, through public school and the colleges and such that, this just total materialistic view that there's nothing more to there's no such thing as the supernatural or anything like that. It's just I think from that aspect it is evidence of either I don't know, you could say maybe parallel universes, interdimensional beings. Also, not only that, but then a lot of what these experiencers are saying is can be fairly disturbing as far as warnings for the Earth. Um, and who knows if the beings are telling them that with some ultimate hidden goal, or if there really is, if they're telling the genuine truth, and the Earth really is headed towards a catastrophe, which I think there is a pretty good amount of evidence that that is the case. But I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea what the future will hold. All we can do is just, take what information we have and then analyze it. So, so yeah, that's why I think it is important. It shouldn't just be brushed off. And if, as just because things sound kooky doesn't automatically make them untrue. What I've learned in studying all this is truth is by far stranger than fiction, and the rabbit hole always goes so much deeper than I can even wrap my mind around. So ultimately, my goal is just to try to present, the facts and the information to you in the most straightforward and yeah, just straightforward, easy to understand way possible, and then make you realize that these are important issues, and abduction is a huge one because, like I said, this is evidence for, other beings, maybe either parallel dimensions or just a whole. It'll just totally once you really study the claims of these abductees and stuff, it'll totally just shift your view of reality. With that being said, I do have a caller on the line. I'm going to go to that person right now. Area code 765. You're on the air. Hello?
Hey, Ed, is that you?
Oh, hey, Chef. Yeah.
It's just me listening in.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to say about what are you want to just share some brief thoughts on what you think of the alien abduction phenomenon?
Um, yeah, I think it's well, let me think here. It's definitely it's mocked by the establishment. It's ignored by academics. It's, millions of people have it going on. It's been going on, in ancient cultures, for thousands of years, and it's just one of these one of these things when you study the real aspects of reality. Um, you find out that the establishment and the academics just ignore the big stuff and focus on all this theoretical junk. And there's few bigger and hotter topics than alien abduction. So many people suffering from it. There's two versions of it, the good and the bad. And so so yeah, that's just some off the cuff thoughts right there.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Jeff. Well, I'll get back to it. And actually, that reminds me, I made a list here. I realized I've been doing Black Helicopter Radio for a while. Well, I mean, for a few months, not too long. And I've never actually. I mean, I feel bad. I really need to thank the people that make this possible, and that's Jeffrey Grubb from Antimatter Radio. This is his blog talk channel. He changed the name to Antimatter Zone Radio Network, and so we can have multiple hosts. So thank him for that. And I know I've thanked Jeff personally, but I just want to make sure I get that out there because I mean this is his channel, so I thank him for the opportunity. I also need to thank Luke L. He made my logo, which is simple but very very effective. I think I mean that's one thing I'm terrible at is any sort of graphic design. So I've been meaning to thank him for that. If you look at any of my videos, you'll see this logo he made. That's like I said, it's very simple but very effective and tells you right away when you see that at least partially what this radio show is all about. So yeah, I wrote that on the notes here. I just need to make sure that I let you guys know who's making Black Helicopter Radio possible. People like Jeff and Luke, and then also thank Jacob Appleman. He does a great show on Next Step Radio, and his info is great. I was listening to some of his shows actually earlier today. And so, with that being said, I'll go just straight back into the abduction phenomenon. I first became really interested in it watching a movie which was based on a real event, a movie called Fire in the Sky, which is about a man named Travis Walton. Okay, and he was a man in Snowflake, Arizona, and I'm actually from Arizona, and I've been in Snowflake, so that made it that much more interesting to me. But he had a very interesting case, to say the least. Um, this was in the 70s. I'll get the exact date for you in a second, but one of the things that makes this such a unique experience, or with this Travis Walton, is the actual abduction. I mean, when he was physically being abducted by these extraterrestrials, was actually witnessed by several other men. And to this day, the story hasn't changed. I mean, I don't know. In my gut, I do not feel this is a hoax. I mean, there's still so much to the story. So Travis Walton was abducted on November 5th, 1975, in Arizona, and actually they're in the national forest. They were loggers. They were cutting down trees, and actually they were on their way home. And I'm paraphrasing the story. It's been a while since I really looked into it, but I mean you'll get the most important. I have the most important parts down, very well, so I'm sure I'll get the point across. But they were on their way home from work, and they saw a light in the forest, and they decided to investigate that light. And sure enough, it was a UFO. Most of them stayed in their car except for Travis. He said he was really young at the time and was kind of showing off to his friends, that he had guts and he was going to go check out the UFO directly. So he went and he actually, looked at it and was stood fairly close to it. And then he said a bright light came, knocked him out, and then next thing he knows, 5 days later, he wakes up on the side of the road and sees the UFO fly off. And I think it was 5 days later. It was around 3 to 5 days later. But yeah, he sees a UFO fly off, and then all this craziness. But in between that time, so what he describes happening is he gets knocked unconscious. At that point, his friends, being completely stunned, as anyone would be. I know this sounds bad, but they did drive off. I mean, it's easy to say if you're in that situation. I wouldn't have driven off. I would have helped, my friend. But I mean, just imagine how intense. You see a UFO, it knocks your friend to the ground. I mean, they thought he was dead. They thought it killed him. So they drive off, and then basically he goes unconscious from there. But eventually he wakes up and is on a cold metal slab with bright lights above him. And he thinks he's in the hospital initially. He thought it was just simply in the hospital. I mean, that makes sense. Bright lights above you laying flat on your back. But then he actually, if I'm not mistaken, then he actually witnessed the beings, the extraterrestrials, um, that were examining him, and so he sees them, and then he starts freaking out, and he described them very similar to the Greys, kind of short, bald heads, no hair, big eyes, and then he starts freaking out, and he actually started to fight them. Obviously, fight or flight. What's he gonna do in that situation? So he starts, he got to his feet and he he yelled at them to stay away, and then he grabbed this glass-like cylinder and started the there's a organization called the Center for UFO Studies, and they have a very good description of abduction. And this is a criteria that they describe abduction. A person must be taken against his or her will from terrestrial surroundings by non-human beings. And then it goes on, the beings must take the person to an enclosed place. Hello and welcome to Black Helicopter Radio. My name is Ed Walker, and I'll be with you for the next hour and a half. So today's episode is going to be on alien abduction. I have done one other show on this, but there's just so much to this topic, you can't really do justice to simply doing one episode on this. I mean, this is a huge, huge topic, and as you'll see, I think it may be done, in a totally different plane of reality. These are things that we will discuss. I just want to make sure in the chat room, can you all hear me? If you guys could just respond to that, just because we have had technical difficulties before, so I don't want to be talking to a dead air. As far as that goes, let me just get started talking about abduction. It is important and is not something that should just be simply brushed off. This is something I've been studying for many years, so I've really evolved what I believe it actually is. One thing I will tell you, though, is I assure you it is real. In what sense it's real, we'll go into that. I mean, is it physically, actually being sucked up into a, spaceship and taken somewhere and done with experiments? Not terrestrial in appearance, assumed or known to be an alien spacecraft by the witness. In this place, the person must either be subjected to an examination, engage in communication, verbal or telepathic, or both. These experiences may be remembered consciously or through methods of focused concentration such as hypnosis. So that